Hey Cutie Art Crusaders fans, this is Rainbow Plasma, and episode 19 is coming up in just 1 second. But first I wanted to address something that's been coming up almost every single episode as a piece of feedback. If you see my O-scene on the screen right now, you'll see that it's a little bit desaturated, and this happens to all the characters on the show that we display, and I want to explain why that was and what solutions we're going to take to fix that. So if you look at these side by side, the one on the left is the regular filter that we use, and the one on the right is with no filters at all. That's just the raw image. The one on the right is obviously very, very saturated, and that's not good. It kind of hurts to look at, and it's because there's a bright thing against a very dark background, and it just creates this contrast that kind of hurts the eyes. And so I originally did that filter on the left, which is obviously very desaturated. After all these complaints, I looked into the settings and decided on a cool little middle ground, and that's the one in the middle right there. That's obviously not quite as crazy, but it's still a little bit less than the, saturated one on the right. So hopefully this middle ground will be much better. It'll convey the colors a little bit better, but not blind you guys. Thank you guys for the feedback. We always appreciate it, and it leads to better changes like this. And that's everything. I hope you enjoy the episode ahead. Hello, and welcome to Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 19 for November 6th, 2012. Welcome back, guys. This is super exciting for me. You know why? Someone asked me why.
Why, Rainbow Plasma?
This is super exciting because today is airing on November 6th, and November 6th is a very special date, okay? There's a couple things happening November 6th, okay? We've got the election in the United States. Who cares?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Canadian. I don't care. More importantly...
It's my birthday. It's really not, but...
More importantly than his fake birthday, Halo 4 is coming out today. And this has nothing to do with ponies, but I'm only saying this because people are going to be watching this in the live stream, and I'm not going to be there. Because I'm going to be playing Halo 4. So, I just wanted to say that because I'm sitting here on the Friday before, anxiously bouncing in my chair, waiting for this game. So, it's exciting to me because that means that it's only 3 days away. It's going to be so good. Anyways, welcome to the podcast. We talk about ponies on this show.
By the way, if anyone makes Halo 4 pony art, that would be amazing.
Yep, we're putting any Halo 4 pony art in the show. Yes. Anyways, my name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and editor of the podcast, and today I'm joined by
Burn1, and I'm the special guest coordinator and also the editor of this podcast.
I'm Flutterguy317, and I'm the art coordinator on the podcast.
And I'm Pinky Dash. I do all the questions. Although sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
I do sometimes.
So, we're back again, guys. We got some really good feedback last week when we did our episode on Colgate. People really liked when we focused on, one particular character. So we're going to be looking at that and kind of working with that in the future. I'm not sure what kind of feedback you guys got, but...
Yeah. I think it's nice because we get to feature a lot of different styles and a lot of different artists, that center around a single character. Mm-hmm. So
it kind of helps us widen our perspective a little. Yeah. And background ponies get a lot of love.
I find less people like episodes that are focused around for artistic themes and things that kind of basically theme around that and learning or whatever, but people seem to go crazy over things that they're combining feature is ponies.
That's true. Yeah.
So
and also
ponies.
People are quite connected to the characters, so they would probably enjoy those episodes a lot more. So we're gonna be looking into that because you guys really enjoyed this one, and we'll probably be having some more coming out in the future that will feature some more background ponies. We're probably not going to do some on the main 6 just because it's kind of common.
But Pinkie Pie.
Get out of here. But if we do them, then background ponies and minor characters get a lot of love from the community. So I'm sure we'll never run out. But this week we have something very special, something that we've been waiting for a couple weeks now. So we're very excited to have on the show. Burned?
Yes. Today we are very happy to say that we are joined by the one and only lovely WhiteDiamonds.
Hello.
And she is here with us on the podcast today. And if you don't know who she is a very, very amazing artist who we all have the pleasure of having on the podcast today. And I believe she originally started posting her art on your blog, was that correct?
Yes, that was correct. about a little over a year ago now.
And it got passed around in, what is it, the Pony Image Bureau, whatever that website was, and got
Pony
around
Bureau?
through there. And then it was also posted around on Reddit and all sorts of places. And eventually, at one point, you made a DeviantArt page, and at that point, your artwork just exploded everywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that happened, actually. Yeah, you're right. It was surprised even me.
So, for people who don't know you, they've I guarantee you, everybody who's watched this show has seen some of your art.
Yeah.
But if they don't know of you specifically, or what you do, can you just kind of describe what you do and basically that.
Okay, well, let me see. Well, I'm just a casual pony fan. I enjoy drawing ponies in my spare time whenever I can. I really enjoy the show. I think anybody who's familiar with my art knows that I like I mostly draw the main 6 usually. But just little ideas that come to my mind. I take commissions, or I did at one point, and I might eventually do that again. But for the most part, I just like to draw, little scenes, anything that occurs to me, things that I think would be cute. Sometimes I'm inspired by fan fiction or things like that. I don't read a whole lot of it, but I have read some in the past, though.
That's good on the set.
Yeah.
We have got a lot of pieces today, and
Yes.
so we're going to be showing probably more art than we ever have on this show, just because there's something really special about your gallery, and that's that I could say every single bit in your gallery is a fantastic piece of art.
Aww.
And I don't really, you mentioned before the podcast started that you said there's pieces here and there that you don't like, you think are bad or whatever.
Well, yeah.
I don't think that's true at all.
Well, thank you.
Almost every single piece, I think every single piece is great in its own unique way. So we're going to be showing a lot of art on this podcast today.
Thank you. I'm so glad people enjoy it. That's the most important thing to me. So.
WhiteDiamonds is actually quite a big name. I mean, if you throw it around, people know who you're talking about. They know that artist and what they've made, what you've made.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing.
I guess we can probably start with a piece that we've had on here before, which if you've seen, what was it, our weather episode?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, the weather.
Yes.
It's called Commission Soviet Rarity.
Mm.
And once again, I mean, this is just an amazing piece. And it kind of ties into a question that I had, which is that a lot of your art features like these really awesome weather scenes or like backgrounds and stuff like that. And I know in particular with this piece, you haven't seen snow before, right?
That's true. I never have. I had to utilize some references. I mean, I've seen it in movies and on TV and stuff like that. So I just had to try to imagine what it would look like, if I was actually there or whatever. Like as far as the falling flakes and things like that.
There was another piece in your gallery, which is called Commission Steampunk Rarity, where there's also this like really intense weather element. I was just wondering, how do you find inspiration for creating these like really intense weather scenes, these backgrounds?
Well, in both of these cases, obviously the pieces were commissioned. So, in this case, the clients told me, kind of what they wanted to see. My friend Forders had commissioned this steampunk rarity picture, the first one that I did of the two, and he gave me a very clear scene of what he wanted to see, and it was kind of like, Rarity in her steampunk garb in a Ponyville street with, fire in her eyes. She's obviously upset about something because she's just getting rained on, I guess. And originally he said something like, her auto umbrella was malfunctioning or whatever. So, she's gotten drenched. So, so there she is. And I mean, rain, obviously, I've seen plenty of that, and well, not plenty, I live in Southern California, but, enough to know how to draw that. So, I knew I wanted it to be kind of gloomy to fit, with the mood that he was going for, or, the image that he wanted, so I obviously used a lot of, desaturated, it's kind of a subdued palette, there's a lot of gray and stuff like that, but I still wanted kind of like a warmth to it, because he had kind of given me some red color palette that he wanted to see. So I tried to stay with that. And stay with something on a little bit of the warmer side.
It's a really interesting contrast because on this steampunk rarity piece, you've got the foreground, which is, well, it's not necessarily the foreground, but if you look at the background, you've got the front piece, which is obviously the Ponyville buildings, and then in the back, you've introduced the steampunk element in another way by having these large stacks, smoking industrial kind of things. Was that something that he requested, or was that just something that you
I just kind of threw those in, actually, because I was drawing it, and I'm going, there's nothing, I mean, obviously she's got the little gears on her hat, and he didn't specify the outfit or anything. I came up with all that. I mean, he just kind of said, try to keep her in warmer colors. He basically just gave me a color scheme. And I had never drawn any steampunk fashions before I took this commission on. I was somewhat only familiar with them. I'd kind of seen it. I didn't really fully understand what it was, but then I did some research, obviously, with this project. And, she's got the monocle, she's got some gears, and those things are kind of steampunky, but otherwise, there's nothing like, a lot of times people will kind of have those, like, mechanical wings, or they'll have, like ray guns or something that makes it decidedly steampunk, and this didn't have that, and I thought there needs to be more of an industrial element somewhere in this picture, in my opinion, so. I don't know. I just in the background just didn't look complete, so I thought smokestacks, factory.
It definitely adds a bit to it.
That's a great idea because that juxtaposition between the two is great.
I actually thought that kind of completed it. Before it had that there. That was one of the last things I added, and before it had that, it just didn't look right.
Yeah. It's just how subtle it is. It completely changes the overall mood and feel of everything. Because she could just be in costume if there wasn't that there. Because as far as we know, there isn't straight up, like, oil industrial or charcoal industrial.
Exactly.
So to have that, it completely changed the flavor of the piece.
Exactly. So I was kind of hoping for that, so that's good. Excellent.
Yeah, it is very interesting, like the contrast, like Rainbow Plasma was saying, between like the warm colors surrounding Rarity, and especially like this glow that you have on her and on her dress and the hat and stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the background, which is very desaturated. And I think the same could probably be said about that the other commission.
Yes.
The Soviet Rarity one.
Yes.
Because I know we talked about this a bit on our previous episode where you made the buildings and the tank and like the snow very desaturated and very cold looking. Mm-hmm. And Rarity kind of has this warm glow to her.
Yeah, I wasn't really, I mean, he was, that kind of comes down to something that was specified by a client in this case. Like, he wanted, and, as far as the layout, this piece has a lot of similarities, actually, I feel, to the steampunk picture, in a sense. And he kind of wanted, this one was a little more of a challenge, he wanted the attention split between the tank and Rarity. Like, he wanted them both to be focal points of the image, which was a little harder to do, and obviously than just having one subject. And I figured the tank kind of spoke for itself in this case because it was incredibly detailed, in contrast to a lot of the other things in the picture. So I figured an eye would naturally, go to that. And then Rarity, meanwhile, she's in the foreground, and I kind of had the idea that it would be like midday, so that it would still be bright, but, obviously there's clouds in the background and it is snowing. But he said, oh, I kind of want it to be a light snowfall, like it's just starting to snow. So, I don't know. And he also was very specific about it having a very desaturated color palette for this picture. He said that, he wanted it to be very gloomy. So, the Soviet Rarity. So. That's
very interesting. That's very, very smart of you when it comes to the tank versus Rarity, because I think most people would just, they think of equal footing, they put them right beside each other. But obviously, not only, like you said, the tank's a tank. Yeah. It's super detailed, and it's a freaking tank. People are going to look at it. But second of all, just even in the size difference, if you put them on the same plane, Rarity is going to be much smaller than the tank. So to put her in the foreground and make her a little bit bigger.
Right.
So it kind of evens it out a little bit. That's really smart. And I actually didn't even think about that until you said that. But that's a great idea that you did.
Oh, thank you. Well, this client sort of had outlined a basic layout. He kind of had ideas of what he wanted to see as far as the layout goes. So I can't take 100% credit for that, unfortunately. But I had to change some things. Like, he wanted it originally kind of really close to the building, but then he wanted the turret sort of not facing straight, kind of turned a little to the right. And anyway, I had to just kind of tweak it a little, but it was a collaborative effort as far as the layout goes.
Listening to you talk about these, you sort of, you use words that not a lot of people do. It sort of suggests some sort of formal art training. Have you had any sort of proper art training? Or is it just...
Very little, actually.
Very little?
Very little. I did take a few basic art classes in school because I was going to try to get into maybe trying to get an illustration degree or something, but I never actually did that. So, I was taking the prerequisites to get to that point, but never actually took them. I took like a life drawing, for example, and the basic drawing classes that they have you take and whatnot. But for the most part, I'm self-taught when it comes to this kind of art.
Wow. Okay. So there you go. There's hope for everyone.
Years of practice, years and years and years of just experimenting and practicing. Years of it.
That's very interesting about Fake It Ash, but going back to the this Soviet rarity piece with the different perspectives and trying to make two different focal points in an image. In all your pieces of art that you've done, is there any specific way that you try and bring out maybe like a focal point in an image in a different way, instead of changing the color scheme or perspective shifting or anything like that? Like, any advice for artists that are looking to do something like that?
That's a really difficult question because I really don't have a specific method that I use. Maybe it's because of the lack of formal training, but because I get a lot of people asking me things like this, on DeviantArt or different places. People contact me and they want advice, or they're wondering if I can kind of help them somehow. And the thing of it is, I actually kind of my usual method is to attempt something, when it starts out as a rough sketch or whatever. If I just keep tweaking it or changing it until it feels right to me, until it looks right, and that's basically how I work. Especially on these, most of my commissioned artworks are the more detailed ones. I don't usually do that on the ones for myself because of lack of time, and I guess, if I'm not being paid to do it, and if somebody isn't expecting something from me, I don't put as much effort into it, I suppose.
Well, you mentioned a couple great ways to change focus. You mentioned how you put a lot of detail into the tank.
Right.
Adding detail into different areas is a great way to change focus of a piece.
And I mean, I suppose it worked, but I guess what I'm saying is I think it's mostly subconscious for me. I don't consciously say, if I add more detail to this or something, it's going to draw the eye more or whatever. I mean, I guess I know that, just subconsciously that it does that. Or likewise, if you have a darker background and something is lighter colored, I think, naturally most people would understand that naturally your eye is going to go to that point. Or, likewise, if you had a certain kind of color palette for a background, blue tones or something, and then you have the subject that be a different color, have a different hue to it, it's going to stand out just from the contrast.
I think the big thing there is you were mentioning that people will naturally understand that, and I think the difference between seeing a piece and being able to make one of your own is just a conscious awareness.
Right.
A lot of people are just, they learn through very early years of their lives, like you said, this unconscious kind of, if you have a dark background, you have something bright against it, bam, your eye goes to something bright.
Right.
But I think it's the fact that people need to start consciously realizing it if they want to get into art. And part of that is, and people have come up to us and talked to us about the show and just kind of saying, I had noticed these things before, but I'd never really noticed them. I'd never thought about them. And if you're working with art, I think a great way to do that is to just start thinking about, why is this piece so good? Why is this piece that I'm looking at capturing my attention? Or why is this point capturing my attention? I think that's a really good point, the difference between the unconscious and the conscious.
I think so as well. I mean, I know that I myself, I think, have learned that way to a large extent. I try to, when, a certain piece will draw my eye or something, I'll try to look at it and think, why does this one speak to me somehow? What about this, appeals to me or speaks to me? And I'll just kind of analyze it and see what I can learn from that or take from that. I mean, that's how I think I've always learned, how to draw or use color or whatever. I feel like I'm still learning, honestly.
I don't think you can ever stop learning.
Yeah.
I think it's always a big process. And in fact, we've had people come up to us and say like, "You guys are such amazing artists," and we're like, "What? Sorry." No, we just talk about amazing artists. So it's a misconception. I think everyone always has something to learn, and it's the same for people who think that they can't make art at all compared to the people who already make amazing art. There's always room for improvement, and anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I feel like I can always improve, and I encourage others. That's the biggest thing. Is just just keep experimenting, keep playing with it, keep trying to draw from things that inspire you. And I think that's the best way to go about learning how to do it to begin with.
Yeah. What you said about tweaking art and just like continually refining it like really hits home with us, like all four of us, because we're vector artists. So we do that constantly, and it's kind of a perfectionist thing.
Oh, I know. Perfectionism. I've dealt with that myself.
Yeah. There's a little bit. There needs to be a little bit of that. There's a good amount, I think, that you can get inside you that will help with art if you have just a little bit of a perfectionist.
But conversely, for me at least, a big part of it has been learning when to let go of that, because
absolutely
that's a
huge,
for me personally, and for some other people I've known, it's learning how to relax and have fun with it. That's one of the most important things. Because if you are agonizing over every little detail, instead of just experimenting and trying to be loose and free with it and just to test, have the confidence to try things and see what works and what doesn't. Unless you have that, it makes it really difficult.
While we're on the topic, and I know these guys have some questions just waiting on the edge of their tongue to talk about.
Yeah, go for it.
But there's something to be said about that. I have a kind of theory, and I've recently I've been doing some sketching. I'm a vector artist, but I haven't really gotten to pencil sketching, but I've been doing that a lot. And something that I've found that's really helped is, like you said, not stressing about the details, is to make a rough sketch of everything and then kind of work at everything, making it better, almost like instead of looking at a piece and like trying to get the head perfectly right before you even deal with the body. Or anything like that. Do you think there's some validity there? Do you think maybe, working on everything as a whole will kind of help with that?
I definitely think so. It's kind of like, that's what I was saying earlier about how a lot of times how I start these pieces. Usually, this is especially applicable when it's like a commission, because somebody wants a specific thing in mind. Some clients are exceptionally specific. They kind of, lay out how they want it, like with the angles and whatnot. And other people just kind of give you a general idea of what they want and what they hope to see. But in either case, you have to try to actually make it work visually from, what it is that they're requesting. And I like to start out with a sketch and just kind of, that's what I was talking about, how it kind of just evolves on its own. I'll try something, I'll just do a really quick rough sketch where it's like a whole scene, and sometimes the composition itself right from the beginning, you can tell it's not going to work. It's not going to serve the purpose you want or draw your attention to the characters in the way that you want. It just doesn't, your eyes or whatever don't react to it the right way. So then I'll just keep messing with it, I'll change it, I'll start over, and I'll just try different things until finally I go, oh, this is it. This is the right thing. So I think in that aspect, it's like trying to get the whole big picture first instead of focusing on the little things, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. That I think that's the right way to approach it, at least for me.
How many like different stages do you go through when creating like a commission? Like, do you said you first sketch it out, and then do you like keep layering on top of that until you get to a point where you kind of finalize everything, or?
Yes, I suppose so. I don't usually use a lot of layers in my work, with the exception of the commissions, and at least I should say the more complex ones. I have done a few commissions that are more simple, but most of them are the ones that have like the full backgrounds and everything, the big complete pictures. And I usually like to leave that very rough layout sketch as a layer, even if it's not an active layer. I like to have it there just so that I can kind of refer back to it, because usually they're in a really rough, raw form, but sometimes they capture an energy or something that I want to hold on to, I want to keep in mind, so I'll kind of leave that rough, raw, unpolished thing there just to remind myself of, what I was shooting for originally.
Huh.
It's kind of like a little inspiration or something.
That's pretty cool. I mean, looking through your gallery as well, I can see there's quite a few, I don't know, crossovers, which I think were mostly commissions. But one here in particular is the Tron one that I'm looking at.
Oh, that's my Tron theme.
I just love Pinkie Pie's face.
Yes. I know. Pinkie, I love Pinkie. I don't draw enough of any of,
So do I.
so many of these ponies.
Actually, in your scraps, you had, a sketched out version? Or it's even in the comments right there in your description.
Yeah.
Of, like, your sketched. And I remember in your sketch, the Rainbow Dash on the left with her standing there all cocky. I really wanted to see a finished version of that. Because I just love her expression and love, like, the detail in her suit.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You're
lovely.
going to put the pressure on me now that I'm here on a
Oh,
recorded interview.
Well, with making such amazing art, you've got us all addicted.
Oh,
We can't get enough of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This piece is really, really interesting because there's so many things here that we've already talked about and that I want to keep talking about, and some new things as well. So I'm going to kind of center the next little bit around this piece of art.
Okay.
So first of all, we talked a little bit at the beginning about lighting and weather effects. This isn't necessarily a weather effect, but this is very big into lighting. Obviously, we've got a very dark environment, kind of dark background, and then
in the computer.
In the computer.
It's like
and
hackers.
then the highlight in the wings and in the trail, and obviously in their suit. So did you this was another commission? So was this very specific? Did you have a lot of trouble with these lighting issues, or?
Well, okay. To answer the first question, yes, this was an exceptionally specific job, and this was probably the most difficult piece I've done as far as, my client, in this instance, he was very particular about it. He knew exactly what he wanted to see, basically. And, we did a lot of discussion back and forth and basically talked about pretty much down to the last detail, was discussed. So, that sometimes can present a challenge, but it was a good challenge for me. I mean, that's a good thing for me to experience. But actually, as far as doing the lighting itself was one of the easier parts of this picture for me. The difficulty is, I've said this time and time again, and I still think it's true, but I don't consider myself especially inclined to doing these sorts of backgrounds, like detailed things, like the tank, for example. I had a very difficult time with that tank, and I had a very difficult time with this city. And the fact that I've never actually seen Tron, still to this day, probably did not help matters at all. He sent me a lot of references, and he, for example, was particular about, he wanted the city shown from a certain angle from above. Everything was pretty much laid out. He did me a little layout also for kind of to follow as a guide, but there was a lot of verbal discussion about what he wanted to see. So I just tried to hold to that.
I was talking to I believe her name on DeviantArt right now is Cosmic Unicorn at Everfree Northwest, and a point that she made was she loves when people who she gets commissions from are more specific, because the more specific it is, the more challenging it is, and she finds it's more fun to do that, just to have that increased amount of challenge. And she finds when clients push her harder in that kind of extent, it makes for better overall work than you thought you could create.
There probably is quite a bit of validity to that. I mean, I wouldn't say that I necessarily prefer to get a very specific one, but it's not a bad thing either. It just depends on the job itself, and each one. I mean, to be able to have freedom to kind of do what you feel is right for a scene or situation is a nice thing. But on the other hand, I can definitely agree that I feel like I learned more from this picture than any of the other ones I've done. Definitely.
Well, it came out fantastic,
Thank you
and it's
so much.
definitely one of your top pictures for sure. And I think the lighting does play a big part of it. So you've gotten quite a few commissions, and you were mentioning before how the commissions are something where you've spent a little bit more time, put a little bit more effort into it.
Definitely.
What is it about the commissions? Is it just because people are requesting that and you don't want to do that in your own spare time? Is there some sort of inspiration you get for the commissions? Like, there's a noticeable difference between your commission pieces and your regular pieces. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean as far as, like, the inspiration or whatever. I mean, for me, I don't want to disappoint people is what it comes down to mostly, so I try much harder.
I think what he means, like, if you look at some of your pieces you just did for fun, like, let's point one on here, like Bitter Alcoholic Fluttershy, where
yes.
the lines are very rough, and, like, you can still see some of the outlines and the colors. You
Right.
can tell that it's done quickly and it's done for fun. But
Right.
if you look at one of your pieces, like Commission, getting ready for Nightmare Night, I mean, all the
Yes.
colors and everything's very sharp and it's very professionally done. I think there's
Yes.
just, I don't want to say like an effort difference, but there's like a
Actually,
time
no,
difference.
it is. It's exactly what it is. It's both. It's both. I mean, basically for me, when I started doing pony art, I was just doing it, for fun or whatever, I guess as a way to explore the characters, because I had enjoyed, what I'd seen of the show at the time, and, I just thought it'd be just cute to kind of, like I said, explore the characters, share my art of them or whatever, how I interpreted them. And then as time went on, people started asking me. I never advertised for commissions. People started coming to me asking if I would accept them. And in the beginning, when I was first doing pony art, I never really expected anyone to have any interest in what I was doing anyway, I never imagined. I was spending, 20 minutes or half an hour on the pieces I was doing, and they were just little cute things just to entertain myself, basically. And if other people liked them, that would be a nice bonus. But yeah, as time has gone on, and I realized that people apparently are interested in what I'm doing, I've put a lot more time and effort into my work, especially, again, when I'm being, paid for something. If it's just for me, I'm not as particular about it. Because then I'm just having fun with it.
We can't really talk to you without mentioning the one that Bern mentioned 30 seconds ago, Getting Ready for Nightmare Night, which was a daily deviation. So we can't really not talk about that one.
That was my fabulous friend Jody. He was my first friend in the fandom, one of the people who encouraged me to make my blog to begin with. And yes, I did that commission for him, and he was the one who also nominated it for a daily deviation, or suggested it, I should say. So
Oh, nice.
I was immensely humbled, and still am, believe me, immensely.
It's one of the only daily deviations that I've seen personally from this fandom. So that is a big deal.
Yeah.
I was numb. I remember when I saw it, I was just like, because I didn't know, what happens when you get a daily deviation. I didn't know if they notified you or something, but it turns out they don't, because I found out. I found out by I had a group request. The daily deviation catalog wanted to have the piece in their gallery, and I was like, what does this mean? And then I saw it in the bar, and I'm just like, oh my god, okay. Oh, mercy.
Well, it's a fantastic piece, and it definitely deserves it, because the just like we were mentioning, the lighting, and there's something about that cloud, the Nightmare Moon cloud is just, I have no idea how you did it, but it came out fantastically.
Thank you so much. That was probably one of the easier parts of this piece for me. I kind of agonized about the lighting. Yeah, the little cloud, I mean, I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I, figured a little airbrushing and, some whatnot, some different transparency with layers would take care of that the way I wanted it to be. But the rest of it, there was definitely some challenge, mostly because of the lighting. There's several different light sources in this piece.
Mm-hmm.
You have the candle, you have the cloud itself, the glowing material in the bowl, there's the moonlight coming through, and then there's kind of like an unseen light source, which is sort of coming from, I guess it'd be like, basically from almost the point of the viewer, but kind of over a little. I mean, you can kind of see like on the pots on the side, on the left-hand side of the pot, there's like another kind of coming from the left side of it. So, yeah.
It's
fun,
very
though.
cool.
It was a good challenge.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
I just like about half the comments are praising how amazing the light source is, and it's breathtaking, is what it is. It's not often you get to see like pieces of art, especially featured on our show, that use such amazing like just dynamics of light, especially with the candle and the glow is like what everyone like eyes focus to, and creating that left side, right side of this light and that light on Zecora is just awesome. especially the green and how it hits everything, and even blends. What I find is my favorite part is the light of the candle and the light of the green cloud. It mixes on the biggest little pot there, and the light mixes together. And I love that.
Yes. Yeah, that was, wasn't sure at the time how I was going to handle that. I'm like, you know, but again, I tweak things. I keep playing with it until it looks right, and that's how I describe my process. That's why it makes me sad sometimes when these people come and they say, oh, you know, can you give me advice or something? And I'm like, I don't have a method. I mess with it until it looks right. That's how I work. So.
Well, it's lovely because something that we like to talk about is, you know, how to use light correctly and well, and it's done so well in this. I mean, how the green is reflecting on the two pots on the right-hand side and reflecting on the side of them, and then the candles hitting the bottom of them. As we get a lot of pieces now and then, or just like fan pieces, or people who are just starting out and making their own fan art, and they're trying really hard to use, you know, light creatively or use it well. And it's something that not a lot of people will look at on how to use it and blend it correctly. And you have such a way of using it so well that you're a great example to give to aspiring artists.
Thank you so much. That's a fantastic compliment.
And this is a perfect piece to demonstrate different sources of light for sure. Like you were mentioning. You were mentioning the moonlight a little bit, but the two main points in this, like you said, are the cloud and the candle. And just seeing the contrast between where the light's hitting, the different colors of light, is just it's a really good example for people to kind of look at and see like from the, you know, you can have a light source from the left, lights up the left-hand side, and the light source from the right. It seems like it's very simple, but it's something that some people can have, like, it's hard to grasp a little bit.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, especially.
There were definitely.
Sorry,
oh no, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, especially when you're dealing with like multiple light sources, because it's a lot of people I know find it really tough to kind of blend them together and get them to look just right.
That was
when they interact.
Yeah, that was definitely the challenge. Like the little herbs that are right there, kind of to the left of the bowl, the little leaf, and there's like a root. A lot of people thought that was like a dead bird or something. But, yes, it's like a root. But anyway, all those little things, that was kind of difficult for me because I knew that there would be a shadow cast from the candle, for example, from the bowl, because they're beside the bowl, and there's a cast shadow, but at the same time they're being lit by the smoke. You know, things like that where it's, or like you mentioned earlier, the one pot where, you know, you got the two colliding at the same time. I don't know, if I'd had formal art training, it wouldn't have been so difficult for me, but for me, you know, that was, I just it took a lot of just trial and error to see what worked and what didn't.
Well, it worked out amazingly. Same with the paper, the stack of paper.
Oh,
yeah.
That was actually, I was amazed. That was actually simple and quick for me. I thought it was going to be horrid, and it wasn't. It wasn't bad.
So we've talked about the end results here a lot, and we've gushed over that enough. But can you tell us a little bit about how you make it and the program you use? Now, on all of your art pieces here, you've added a little button at the bottom, which, by the way, from our show point of view, is fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. I'm glad you appreciate that.
You added a little button down there saying, made with Paint Tool Sai. Yes. So we know what program you're using, or you know you're using Sai. Can you tell us a little bit about that program? For those people who don't know what Sai is, can you explain to them what that is?
Well, it's obviously another art program that I personally am very fond of because, you know, to me, I used to use Photoshop, by the way, years ago, before I was doing ponies. And for me, Sai is just a little more straightforward. I find it very user-friendly as far as the interface goes. It doesn't have as many options, but maybe that's part of why I like it. It's not as cluttery, you know, it's just, you have the option to, you know, when you're drawing on a piece, you know, to make like your canvas, your background, whatever, you can set it to actually be canvas textured or things, paper textured, whatever, and then the tools interact with it, you know, appropriately, you know, accordingly to that. So, I don't know. I think it's when you want it to actually look like a real painting, it's easy to do that. You know, maybe I just didn't know how to use Photoshop properly. I don't know. I'm very untech savvy.
No, this is good because a lot of the people that we've talked to and that I personally have talked to use both. They use Sai for the line art and then they color it in Photoshop.
Oh.
I've got a little bit of experience with both, and I can agree to that. Sai is a lot easier for doing the line art because it works. But Photoshop, And if you do the whole thing in cyan, then they all turn out amazing. But I've never been able to do anything even close to that because A, I'm a bad artist, and B, I don't use Psy that much.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly how you were saying. Psy is much more fluent. It's a lot more simple, and people find it's a lot easier to use and a lot more organic, especially when trying to digitally paint a piece. And Photoshop is there to have anything and everything and every little bell and whistle you could ever imagine for making something highly professional down to the last pixel. Where when you're painting, you don't want to worry about how pixels interact.
Exactly.
Yeah, Psy was developed for tablets, so.
And I maybe that's why. I have a friend of mine. I don't know if you've had his art on your show before. My friend Harwick's art on DeviantArt.
Yep.
He uses Photoshop, for example, and he does amazing things with it. And we've talked about his processes before. He works completely differently than I do, I think, but it's interesting to me that he a lot of times he talks about how he does his backgrounds because they're amazing backgrounds, and for him they don't take him that long. Like I paint things, every little thing by hand, and he's very clever with layers and using options that exist in Photoshop that even when I had the program and used it, I didn't know how to use it to its full potential.
I used to teach Photoshop and I don't know everything.
Oh, mercy. I have no idea. So, even maybe it's just because, like I said, my technical ineptitude, is that I have with so many things. For me, this just works better because it's straightforward. It's almost like doing a real painting or using traditional media, but you have the benefit of undo for one thing and layers for another. Which, but otherwise, it's like being able to just kind of work like I was accustomed to doing with traditional media.
Yeah, exactly. Something else we've said on the show is knowing how to use your user interface or knowing the medium well in which you're working with is better to make, good art that you know how to make. That was a terrible sentence. But basically, if you know how to use SI Paint Tool well, you're gonna make art well in it. And if you know how to use Photoshop well, then it's the same kind of concept.
Gives you an advantage for sure.
Right, and just your comfort level.
Yep. But to make great art, you don't need to know every single bell and whistle and trick in Photoshop, because sometimes people learn a few tricks in Photoshop and they become one-trick pony, if you will. That's their go-to, technique for making backgrounds or blending colors. And sometimes it will create more of a tunnel vision, where an SI Paint tool, its purpose is to blend colors and to paint. And if you know how to do that, people have been doing that for thousands of years with actual paint. So.
Maybe that's why I like it. But for me personally, and my style and the way I like to approach an artwork, for me it works very well, and it's definitely my preferred program.
Speaking of doing things for thousands of years using traditional style, have you dabbled in a little bit of traditional art before? I believe all the stuff on your DeviantArt is digital art. Do you have anything else that's a little bit more traditional, maybe like paintings, or have you dabbled in?
I have dabbled. I don't have anything up, and I don't believe I've made any pony arts that are traditional. I would like to maybe someday, because I used to like to use colored pencils a lot. So I still do that. I haven't in a while, but I know I still could, and I'd like to maybe try again someday. And I used to paint a little. And obviously, draw charcoal or just pencil or whatever. So I used to do some traditional media. I got on, it's not even a bandwagon. I joined the rest of the world a little bit later than, most people did. As far as how old was I when I tried doing digital art? I don't know. It was, telling you that would kind of disclose how old I am now, so I'm not going to go there. But I didn't start very early, I guess, is what I'm getting at with digital. And I consider myself to still be learning. Like I said, my friend Harwick, he goes, "Oh, well, you could do da 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 da." I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I would have no idea how to do that, but you're amazing."
We'll have to have Harwick's art on our show, and maybe he can ramble about this.
Oh, we've had him.
maybe
We've
he
had
could
him
join.
twice. We've had Hit the Showers, and we've had Swim.
Oh, I
Coach.
meant personally.
Oh, I
Yes.
love that one. That's one of my
Swim
favorites.
Coach is amazing.
I love
Oh,
that
man.
picture.
Yeah.
That is
I think if you go back to the episode where we had Swim Coach, what was that? Was that the water episode that
Yeah.
we
The water
That was
episode.
water,
Yeah, I think we just spent about 15 minutes going. Ugh.
No, seriously.
good.
Seriously, the
So good.
water it's ridiculous. Like, it is ridiculous. I don't think
It
I could
is.
ever do that.
He loves
I don't-
using
I-
water.
I
as
haven't
a
seen
piece.
not to mention like pony art. I haven't seen water that good in any art in a long.
That's what I kept telling him. This thing is amazing.
Crazy.
It's unbelievable. Looks
He
real.
is crazy.
It looks real. The
We'll have to
water
have him
looks completely real. It's like
We have to have a lot of people on. We've got a long list of people to pick up on.
photorealistic.
All right.
Oh, funny.
Let's see. Art. There's so much art.
Man, it is really. It's getting tougher and tougher as we find these artists more and more talented who have these vast galleries of things we could look through, and we just keep getting distracted during we're doing our episodes. Last week we featured a piece by Soapy Solar, and we all got lost for about a minute because we started looking through his gallery and just going, "Oh, it's so cute."
Yeah.
You had to edit
He
that
has
out
some great
slowly.
things.
Oh, see, that's what you should have left in.
Just a minute
No.
of silence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moment of silence.
Every now and
We'll
then.
have to
just,
have. Well, while we're rambling a little and bringing up pieces, there's something that I wanted to bring up. Easily, I think my personal favorite piece in your gallery is your piece called "I Love My Dashi," and
yes.
I know that got passed around everywhere. I found it on Reddit, and people are like, "Oh, repost 1,000 times, whatever." And it was actually hosted on Imager at that point because you didn't have a DeviantArt when I found out about it.
Oh.
But I had loved this piece, and I used it as my Skype icon for a long time because I just love Rainbow Dash's expression, rolling her eyes, and how Pinkie Pie is
Yeah.
so gratuitously happy at being able to hug her. But
Yeah, I mean a little bit of podcast history. When we first started Cutie Art Crusaders, that was Burns' icon.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whenever I'm chatting with people on the podcast, I always see them as the ponies. So for example, White Diamonds is Rarity. So I can just imagine Rarity talking to us about the about how she's doing her art.
Oh,
And,
Rarity with her sewing glasses on. Don't
Yeah.
forget that part. That's
Yeah.
her-
Yes,
she's an
yes.
artist.
Very
she's an
serious,
artist
very
mode
serious.
right now.
that's what I was gonna say. I love your Skype icon because I feel like I'm chatting with Rarity herself in her workshop.
That's not going in the video. I'm not finding that. But yeah, anyway, so this picture, "I Love My Dashi," was Burns' Skype icon right at the beginning when we started Cutie Art Crusaders. So every single time I would hear him talk, I'd hear him as Rainbow Dash just rolling his eyes.
So funny. I've been amazed. I know that one has to be one of my most popular pictures. And that was one of the, that was just a little quick one that I just, did for my own enjoyment. A lot of times these things come about, I don't even plan them. I'm just start doodling ponies in my free time, and it'll just happen. A scene will happen. Like I'll draw one with, one kind of expression, and then another pony will just kind of join in, that seems to fit, or whatever. They just kind of grow and take on a life of their own. So that was one of those instances. But a lot of
Well, it worked out well.
a lot of people seem to like that one. That one seems to be quite popular. I see it everywhere, and I think I mentioned this, before the show, but I see it on non-pony sites, places that have nothing to do with ponies. I'll be browsing on the internet and I'll see it like in it'll be, I don't know, like some news site, and somebody will have it for their avatar or something, and I'm just kind of laughing. Kind of funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's probably like the singularly most widespread piece of pony art that I've seen online, which is saying a lot.
No, it's amazing. Absolutely incredible to me.
Just kind of happens, doesn't it? Just kind of happens.
It just does, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we even had a piece that Byrne did for Pinkie Dash's birthday way back
Yes.
before the podcast started, where he vectored over this. I'll pop that up on screen. So
Oh,
it's had lots of variations to it. It's had lots of uses to it. I think I agree. This is probably the most shared one.
Yeah,
Now,
seems to be.
now
That's so cute. It is. I love that little thing. That is too cute.
It was back when I
Oh.
believe. Oh goodness, what was that? It was June 2nd.
Vector Club Weekly,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
back,
Vector
our
Club
old
Weekly.
podcast, Vector Club Weekly, when Pinkie Dash forgot to record his horrible times. So there's
was a good week.
couple of interesting pieces that I want to bring up, and I'm afraid that we're going to run out of time. So I'm going to try to run through these pretty quickly here.
Okay.
The very first one is the one that you did about Octavia, commission
Yes.
Etude for cello. Oh, up. I don't know. Look, I'm not musical, okay? I can't say these words.
Same here.
Okay, it's Octavia. She somehow looks concentrated and adorable at the same time. Can you tell us a little bit about this commission?
That was another one from my friend Jody, the one who had commissioned the Cora. And he came to me wanting he wanted a picture, as he said, just Octavia composing, because most people draw her in the act of actually playing her cello, but he wanted to kind of show a different side to her, or to kind of expand on that. And, he didn't say anything other than, I think he said, her writing, she's writing music, and, maybe have her holding the bow in her mouth so that it looks like she's going back and forth between playing, what she's writing, testing it out or whatever, and then writing the music down. And that was pretty much what he gave me for that. But as soon as he said that, or I was talking about this, I had the mental image as far as the lighting and what I wanted to create. Like, for this piece, for me, it was all about the mood of the piece. Because if you look at that piece, I mean, technically there are many, many errors or things that, I'm not completely happy with. But as far as the mood that I was going for is exactly what I wanted. And I think that's the strongest point of the whole thing.
I really like how a lot of things on it aren't finished, especially how the entire bottom border of the piece has nothing on it. It's blank, it's bare, and there's nothing there. I love that. I think that's my favorite part about it, because it actually looks like the piece is actually being composed, because I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but since it has that unfinished piece, it's like the piece isn't, finally written. It's like being, wrote, if you will, with the light of that lamp and how it's projecting on everything. And I love how the piece makes me feel when I look at it.
That, I thank you so much. That'll be my new little headcanon, or whatever you want to call it, for, why I left this on. That was my reasoning, everybody. I was trying, it was symbolic. I was trying to, symbolically compose, show the art of composition in progress. No, but thank you.
It fits perfectly, and we were talking with Pixel Kitties a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying, if something comes up and you don't notice it, but somebody brings it up, absolutely, that is exactly why I did it.
Exactly, love it.
Exactly.
Let us all go with that. I like that.
So there's another piece that I wanted to bring up really quickly, because I just die every single time I look at it. I have to look away when I'm talking about it, but it's the excessively chibi ponies.
Oh, mercy.
Why? Why is it so cute?
Oh, God.
I don't know what I was
Goodness.
thinking.
They're adorable.
I know. I don't know where that came from. I don't normally draw in that style. I don't normally color in that style, but one day I was just doodling, and I'm like, I'm going to draw chibi ponies. I can't. So I started drawing chibi ponies. And, this piece is actually, at least on DeviantArt, it seems to be very popular. So apparently people like it.
Very.
It just makes me smile every single time I see
They're
little Pinky.
ponies that are cute enough to rival
Thank you,
Soapy
Matt.
Solar himself.
Oh, that is
That
definitely
is
a
saying
very
something.
nice compliment. Thank you. I know. And how do their little bodies support their heads? I have no idea.
They're
that's
being
part of the
supported out
cuteness.
of sheer cuteness. Yeah.
Oh, look at
It's Pinkie Pie physics.
They're made of helium.
there you are.
Cuteness floats. Cuteness floats. I love how your signature is is rainbow in this piece too.
Oh yeah, I did that. Just a layer over it. No specific color seemed to fit, so I went with that.
Okay, well,
so adorable.
unfortunately,
okay.
we're gonna run up on time here a little bit. Does anybody have one more point? Because we have a little bit of time left. Does anybody have like a picture they want to feature?
Something that's a bit of change of flavor. Something that I wanted to mention was Fluttershy Corrupted.
Oh yes.
Because
yes,
everything in your gallery, it's very silly, or it has some kind of overall tone to it, like a sleepy tone or some kind of, commissioned feel. Or it's just overly happy. It's a happy, cute pony with like a pink or very warm background, like the I Love My Dashie or something. But in this one, I don't think it was done by commission. You just did it off of your own accord, just for fun.
Right.
And just the overall
Right.
feeling of it is just malicious.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know at one point, I don't think I linked in the description, but at some point, or maybe more than once, somewhere in the comments, I've linked people to the original sketch, which I never maybe I did post it on my blog somewhere, but the original sketch was not at all that sinister. You know, it was an evil-looking, or, you know, an angry, whatever, looking Fluttershy, and then for some reason when I added color to it, just with the shadows, it just made it sinister. Like, it didn't start out that dark. It just kind of happened, I guess. So...
It's crazy what a little bit of shadows and
yeah,
color will do.
if you compare the sketch to the actual finished piece, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you know, I don't... it's amazing. It completely changed the entire mood of everything. So a lot of people are comment on that, and they think it's something from that, what is the Shed movie or something. I've never actually watched that, but I was like, no, I did that. I did that long before, and it was just supposed to be a discorded Fluttershy. But, she came out looking a little more evil than I think I originally intended.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we're gonna have to cut it off here. I would highly encourage people to go through your gallery, because White Diamonds here has a fantastic gallery, and there's just too many pieces that we don't have the opportunity to show on the show. And to be honest, there's a lot of things to be learned from these pieces, so we'll probably have them on future episodes. So you can head to our DeviantArt. That's WhiteDiamondsLtd.deviantart.com. Again, that'll be on the screen. Is there anywhere else that we can reach you?
Well, I do have a blog. It is at ravishingdiamonds.blogspot.com, I believe. But it's
Do you mind posting that in the chat here so that I can grab it for the
No,
video?
and it's on my front page as well. And that.
Oh, okay.
It's on my front page.
That's a good place to go.
Yeah. Let me see. Hang on. But anyway, I do occasionally post sketches and stuff there. Most of my work does make it onto DeviantArt, but every now and then I will post, you know, there's just a little sketch or something that, you know, I kind of use the blog mostly for, like, chatting with my friends or, you know, conversation. It's like a discussion blog more than anything. But, you know, anybody is welcome to come. It's a public blog, so.
Oh, there actually also was one more thing that I wanted to note. One of your pieces, it is called The Art of Distress.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We're part of something called the My Little Pony Vector Club, and that is basically how we all met each other. And that is what we, was like our main outlet of how we, you know, got like pony art, like looked at pony vectors. And we actually, someone vectored this piece, I believe it was yours, but I had seen their vectors before I had seen this original, and I had actually never seen this picture of Rarity in distress ever. Before we'd actually had you on our show today, I had just noticed this in your gallery, and I just made the connection, and I believe you are the original to these thousands of vectors that we have gotten of this exact piece.
It's honest. I'm aware of that. It's actually, I think at this point, it's kind of become a meme.
Yes.
And,
yes, it has.
And I think that is hilarious, actually. I never ever would have seen that coming. Yeah, that was a quick doodle one day, and I did that one actually the very first time that I was aware people had posted my art on Reddit, because I was checking my stats on my blog. This was before I had a DeviantArt account, and I had a massive hit one day, like 1,000 views or something, just like right then, and I was like, what happened?
What happened?
And it had the source from where all the traffic was coming from, and it was Reddit. And I think that was the first time my art had ever been put on there. So that drawing was my response to that massive Reddit influx, and this fat thread that had just grown up out of that, with everybody going, oh, look at this artist, and I was just kind of blown away by that. So that was my response to it. And at this point, it has become vectorized, I think, with multiple characters, probably every single character, just about
every single main character and background character.
Yeah.
There's definitely.
So
there's definitely one I can think of.
I inadvertently started a meme, but that's kind of funny, actually.
It's awesome.
The expression is just wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, all of you.
I know we've had a lot of fun here today, but unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. So this will be the end of the show. There's a couple things to talk about at the very end here. Before we get into how people can contact us, I wanted to bring something up that happened this past week, which was really, really awesome. We had some fan art come into us, which was really amazing. But I'm gonna do something here that I haven't told anyone else about, but I'm going to announce something. So we had a couple pieces of fan art, but I'm not going to show them on the show. And here's the reason why. What I want everyone to do right now, we've had people come up to us and ask us, can we draw your OCs, or can we send in fan art, or whatever. What I'm thinking of doing is, it's November now, it's a couple months before the year ends, so what I'd like for you to do is, if you guys want to send in fan art, or you guys want to make us something, I'm going to set up kind of, like, you can send it to our email, which we'll talk about in a minute, but by the end of the year, we're going to gather up every single piece that's sent from us and make a special show. We've been talking a long time about making a show with art that fans have sent into us. And now that we've started, getting some legitimate, like, with our characters, which we're amazed with, by the way. They're amazing.
Yeah.
we really want to make an episode about it. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to kind of come out, have some fun, send us in some fan art, and then I guarantee you, this is a guarantee that if you send in some fan art, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you use crayons. I don't care if you're advanced. We had people being like, "Oh, I would send you in fan art, but like all I've got is this box of crayons."
Bernd wants a stick pony of his OC.
Do it.
trust me, we
I
will
want a
love
crayon
it.
drawing.
The fact that anybody is making anything to do with us, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane. So, don't worry about saying, like, oh, mine's not going to be good enough. I guarantee you it's going to be good enough, and we would love to have it on the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a deadline right now. And I'm going to set this deadline for Christmas time, okay? So that is the 25th of December, which is a Tuesday. Unfortunately, we can't set up one of our shows is going to premiere on New Year's, which is really amazing. But unfortunately, we record on the previous Friday, so I can't set it up for, like, send it in by the end of the year. So we're going to have to set up the deadline for the 25th of December. That'll be a week before a week before that special show. And then on the 1st of January, we're going to have a show showing all of the fan art. And I hope that we can get as many people on there as physically possible. I want to get every single piece of art on there because I don't want people to be left out. And I haven't told even the podcast guys about this, so I just thought I'd kind of throw that out there because I thought it was really awesome.
That is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Also, big shout out to the two people who have already sent us in
Right,
art.
we're not going to say them yet, and I don't want to. People can look it up. People can look it up, but I want to really go. I really want to, like, talk about it in, like, its own specific show.
Yeah.
First of all, not to take any spotlight away from people we have on the show currently, but also I don't want to skim past these pieces because they're amazing. So yeah, by Christmas time, which is the 25th of December, if it's a lenient date, if you're in a different time zone and you're like, you submitted on the 26th by accident because you live in Europe or whatever, or you live in Australia, then that's fine. Just around that time, a week before the show will come up on January 1st. Please do so, because it would be awesome to have your art on the show, and we would love to feature you guys' art on the show. And that's my spiel from me. You guys can go on with the plugs.
Okay, we'll do. Alright, I'll start off with my thing. Okay, so ways to contact us. We have a email address, which is the best place for you to send stuff into us that you want us to have a look at and feature. Stuff like music, fan art, that's anything like that. It's cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. If you're sending in questions, put something like questions, or I have something to ask you, something like that in the subject line. Same thing with if you have something you want to show us, put art in the subject line. And a new one that I'm going to set up, fan art. If you have fan art for us, put fan art or something along those lines in the subject. And the way that I've set it up, Gmail automatically sorts stuff for us, so it's easy to find and keep on top of. And yeah, that just makes it easier. No, won't miss it. Okay, we also have a DeviantArt, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. That way you can have a look at everything that we've featured on this episode and previous episodes. It's all there. When this goes up, when this goes up on YouTube, you'll find that everything from this episode is up on our DeviantArt
Feel free to
page.
comment below.
Yeah.
Do that, and you can go back and look through our previous episodes. And what we do is, with the favorites gallery on our DeviantArt page, we favorite stuff that we can't feature on the show. We just don't have time. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in there for this week by White Diamonds.
Basically, all of White Diamonds.
We're just going to favorite White Diamonds as a user.
Yeah. We'll just link to their gallery.
You all are so sweet. Thank you.
We're charmers.
You definitely are.
That's the way you can find out us four individually, and you can talk to us as well.
Yeah, we also have some social media things as well. We have a Twitter and a Facebook. The Twitter is at Cutie Art Crusade. That's where you can go for up to the minute kind of stuff, and also to be notified about new episodes. And Facebook, which Flutter Guy runs, which is facebook.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. So go check those out if you guys want updates. We've got a couple of places. So if you prefer DeviantArt, then we send out journals each week notifying you about the episode. Same with Facebook and Twitter. So whatever you prefer, go head on over there and hit us up. Feel free to ask a question, send in letters and stuff like that. We are more than happy to respond.
Yep.
Whew. Holy cow! That was probably the longest. That was the longest outro we've ever had to do. I'm gonna have to shorten this up in the future. Again, I'd like to thank White Diamonds for coming on the show.
No, thank you for inviting me. Really, I had a great time.
It's been our pleasure.
We would love to have you on sometime.
It's been
in the
our
future.
pleasure.
I would enjoy that as well, actually. Now that you've all helped me figure out
we've got not only so many guests coming up, but we've also got so many guests in the past we've had a lot of fun with. So I'm sure sometime we'll sneak you in along with everybody else.
Just let me know. I'd be happy to do it. Be a pleasure.
And again, like I said, it's been our pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, enough charming. We gotta get this show on the road because I'm editing this week and I have to put on a strict deadline.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, you guys are awesome, and you're the fans. Is why we do it.
Yay.
And I don't think I have anything else to say. We did the long-winded outro. So without further ado, my name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Burned01.
I'm FlutterGuy317.
Meow.
And I'm White Diamonds.
Really, Pinky Dash? Really? All right, you know what? You're not even going to be in the outro. See you guys next week.
Bye.